Welcome to Build Bytes Daily. You know, for as long as I can remember, web developers have been stuck between a rock and a hard place. You either build a website that's super fast but totally static, or you build one that's dynamic and personalized but kind of slow. It's always been this all-or-nothing choice. But what if I told you that entire dilemma might be coming to an end? Today, we're diving into a really cool concept that promises to change the game: partial pre-rendering. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at that classic all-or-nothing choice that's defined web dev for years. Then we'll zoom in and see how that problem creates a real headache on a single page. After that, we'll introduce partial pre-rendering, or PPR, and peek under the hood to see how it works its magic. And finally, we'll talk about all the awesome benefits and ask the big question: is this the new default for how we build on the web? All right, so to really get why PPR is such a big deal, we have to go back and understand the original problem. For a long time, web frameworks basically gave developers one fundamental choice to make.
On one side of the ring, you've got dynamic rendering. This is your social media feed, your personalized e-commerce homepage. You get the idea. The content is different for every single person, so the server has to build that page from scratch every time someone visits. It's amazing for personalization, but you pay for it with speed. And on the other side, you have static pre-rendering. This is your company's blog or a simple landing page. The content is exactly the same for everyone. So you build the page just one time, stick it on a global cache, and it loads almost instantly. Blazing fast, but totally rigid.
Now here's the kicker. Historically, you had to pick one of these for your entire app, and this led to all sorts of awkward setups. You'd see a company's main app, the dynamic part, living on one web address, while their blog lived on a completely separate subdomain. Why? Well, it's often because the teams literally had to create a whole new project, sometimes even using a different framework, just to get the static performance they needed. It was not ideal.
So that application-level choice was already a pain, but the problem gets even more tangled when we zoom into a single page.
Because let's be real, most pages out in the wild aren't just one or the other, right? Take an e-commerce product page. The product photos, the description, the user reviews, that's all static stuff. But what about the little shopping cart icon in the corner that shows how many items you've added? That's dynamic. The old way of doing things meant that just because of that one tiny dynamic part, the whole page had to be slow and dynamic.
And this right here, this is the light bulb moment that unlocks everything. Even the most personalized, dynamic pages have a huge amount of static content. Think about your dashboard on some site. The header, the navigation sidebar, the footer, all of that is the same for everyone. But with the old model, if one little piece of content was dynamic, the entire page got treated as dynamic, and all those performance benefits of the static parts were just thrown right out the window with every visit.
So, this is exactly the problem that partial pre-rendering was created to solve. It's a brand new hybrid approach that finally lets us break out of that all-or-nothing trap.
So what is it exactly? Well, simply put, PPR lets you have your cake and eat it too. You can mix fast, static content with dynamic content on the very same page. You start with a pre-rendered static page that basically has some, well, holes in it. Then, when a user shows up, only those holes get filled in with their specific dynamic content. The whole philosophy is, be as static as you can and only be as dynamic as you absolutely have to be.
Okay, that sounds pretty incredible in theory, but how does it actually work? Let's pull back the curtain for a second and see what's going on behind the scenes. The secret sauce here is a React feature called Suspense. The easiest way to think about it is like this. You take any component that needs dynamic data, say a welcome message with the user's name, and you wrap it in what's called a suspense boundary. This acts like a little containment field. It isolates the dynamic code and stops it from infecting the whole page and making it slow. The rest of the page gets to stay static and fast, while only the part inside that boundary waits for its data.
So here's what happens when you visit a page. Step 1. An instant static shell of the page is sent to you from a server nearby. At the exact same time, in the background, the server starts working on your dynamic bits. Step 3. Your browser doesn't wait around. It immediately starts painting that static HTML on the screen. And finally, as those dynamic pieces are ready, they're streamed in and seamlessly fill in the blank spots on the page. It's pretty slick. And the result of this whole clever process is just a ton of amazing benefits, both for the developers building the site and, more importantly, for the people who are actually using it.
The first thing you'll notice is the speed. I mean, this chart really says it all. A fully dynamic page can feel sluggish, a static page feels instantaneous, but look at PPR. It is nearly as fast as a purely static site. For the user, this means they see content on their screen almost immediately.
And that is a massive win for user experience.
But the speed is just the beginning. You get that amazing instant loading feeling of a static site, but you no longer have to give up personalization to get it. This just makes for a way better user experience. It's also great for SEO, because search engines can crawl all that static content right away. And because the static shell loads so fast, the whole page becomes interactive for the user much sooner.
Now, this is way more than just another cool feature. The implications of PPR are actually much bigger. It really represents a fundamental shift in how we can think about building for the web.
This really changes the whole mental model for developers. You don't have to sit down at the start of a project and make that huge, stressful all-or-nothing decision anymore. You can just build your site, add dynamic data wherever you need it, and trust that the framework is going to automatically figure out the fastest way to deliver it. The best performance just becomes the default.
And this brings us right back to where we started. To put it simply, we are no longer forced to choose between these two extreme all-or-nothing models. This is the answer to that conflict we talked about at the beginning, a way to finally escape that false choice between making something fast or making it dynamic.
So it leaves us with a pretty big question for the future of web development. If we have a new default that automatically gives us the best parts of both static and dynamic rendering, are we looking at the end of even having to think about a rendering choice at all? It's definitely a powerful idea to think about.
And that's our look at partial pre-rendering. I really hope this gave you a clear picture of what this is all about and why it's such a potential game changer. If you found this helpful, do me a favor and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to BuildBytesDaily for more deep dives just like this one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.